I'd like to illustrate this system in action. And by the way, this is not merely a highlighting system, it's an inline tagging system. When reading, it's important to keep an eye out for interesting authors whose work is relevant to our projects. So here I make a note of this author, who is Sharon Bratt, and she's someone who's provided thoughtful input to my cognitive productivity book. So because I use blue for important authors and references, I will select the color blue. And there you go. Next up is an important term that the author introduced, but I happen to have used the yellow color, which is the wrong color because that's for important information, so I'll change that to green because I said that I use green for terms, concepts, definitions, and so forth. So cognitive potency is another term. Let me change the color of that highlight, and I'll apply green as well to the definition. Preview doesn't offer you many colors, so we have to overload several categories onto one color. So when I review this part of the document later, I'll be able to tell that there is an important author, a technical term, another technical term, and then a definition that are present in this text. So moving right along, the next highlight is on page 85, where we say that, okay, it's easy to be seduced by flawed information. Now, you might consider this to be a knowledge gem, something that's quite important, and therefore you would assign, according to the taxonomy I described earlier, you'd assign yellow to that particular text. Because we're using yellow for important claims, the thesis, problems, goals, principles, summary, statements, etc. Incidentally, you'll notice that these are normally sentences as opposed to single terms. Next up, we have another term, so we'll change the highlight color for that to green. So you scroll down here. Now let's suppose that you actually don't agree with the statement here. So what you'd like to do is click on a text and then add a strike through. But Apple has made it a little bit complicated for you, more complicated than Skim, as we'll illustrate it. You'll need to remove the highlight, and then you've got a couple of options. One of them is simply to go to the Tools menu, select Annotate, and from there you can strike the text through. Another way you could have done it would have been to expose the toolbar, so Show Toolbar, and then select your text and apply your strike through from here. The difference is that when you select this option here, the selection tool will then remain in strike-through mode, so you would have to turn it off. Now suppose that the reason you highlighted this information was because you don't really understand it. So what do you do? Well, let's change the highlight color of that to purple, which is the color that we've reserved for information that you don't understand. To refresh your memory, so here's purple, don't understand. Now this might look like a pretty academic point here, but I would like to emphasize something that I'll elaborate on later, and that is that cognitive scientists have demonstrated that students who are aware of what they don't understand, what they don't know as they're reading a text, will perform much better than students who are not aware of their weaknesses. And that is the story of expertise. Experts aren't experts simply because of their genetics, but because they have systematically, through time, identified their flaws, their limitations, and their understanding, and so forth, and then went back and remedied them. This little technique that I'm showing you here is actually very, very important. Now, another thing that expert readers pay a lot of attention to is the structure of the argument. Ideally, we don't just accept the claims made by an author, nor do we reject them out of hand, but we look at the warrants, the rationale that ties the grounds to the thesis, and the backing for the entire argument. That's basically an undifferentiated category of highlight. It's similar to what most people probably have in mind when they're highlighting text. So we can use this underline here to represent that.